So, okay, let's go with the first presenter. Today, we're going to start listening the remarks by the sisters of Lidice Heights, Altos de Lidice, Gabriela Melendez and Arianna Blanco. They're part of the small journalist team in Altos de Lidice. It has been an interesting experience. They participated in a previous seminar that was held within the framework of the World Social Forum. So they have been working intensively and discussing relevant items, and it would be great for you to listen to their first-hand experiences. So I'm going to give the floor to them. Jade. What they would like is if you can share the videos, because you have a better connection. They can pass you the links of the videos and you share the videos they want to show while they are speaking. Good morning. My name is Gabriela Melendez. I'm 14 years old. I'm part of the communication team of the Altos de Lidice Commune, and I'm going to speak to you on how experience was at the beginning. We were regular children, and suddenly we enrolled for a photography class, and we started to take photographs, we started to record videos, and also to conduct certain interviews and to make portraits, and we started to learn about the world of people's communication, of popular communication, and we liked it so much that we continue learning, because there was a group of more than 32 children, and we, the ones that stayed studying, we are passionate about communication. We like this. It's not a matter of economic benefit or anything like that. We like the activity. This working commune, it started in a small manner. Our commune is integrated by 7 communal councils, and we are currently helping other communes to create similar initiatives. We received the help of several communes, the commune Panal 2021 from 23 Enero and the Maizal commune of Lara State, and it's difficult, the situation that we're living in Venezuela, because we lack many things. We have access we don't have access to important resources such as water and gas supply, but however, with the help that we receive, and we receive support by gas filling stations and food distribution centers, because some people are in real difficulties, and thanks to this help, we are able to move on. With regards to our personal experience, I can tell you that I'm really grateful, because thanks to the commune, I have been able to obtain many things. I have met wonderful people, and I have learned so many things. So, for example, the food supply to our communal council takes place thanks to the contribution of the other communes, the Panal 21 and the Maizal commune. We receive fruits, vegetables, corn flour at fair prices, so that all the inhabitants of the commune can purchase this food. With regards to gas, domestic gas supply, it's complicated at times, because not all the filling stations are operating. So we have been able to help each other in this regard. And with regards to the communication work, more specifically, we are approximately 8 people. We have been working in different fields. We have interviewed important people, and we really like what we do. And next, I'm going to give the floor to my colleague, Arianna.
Great. Okay. Take it.
Oh, it seems it touched the video or something. Okay. Back. Good morning. My name is Arianna Blanco, and I'm a Commune reporter from Altos, Lidice. We really love our job because it's based on taking photographs and social communication, mass communication. We are a group of young reporters covering the events that take place in our community. We cover the activities that take place in our community. For example, when food supplies arrive to the community, and meeting of the spokespersons in the community. We also we want to highlight that thanks to this communication group, we have been acknowledged both nationally and internationally. We have participated in different activities related to communication, such as the ALBA Caracas seminars that took place recently. And from my personal experience, I can share with you the following. I like to communicate and help people, and that is why I participate in this community group. And we are able to help the people. And we can see how the people in our commune and our community in general can become enthusiastic and join the efforts instead of just complaining. So we have a current campaign that is called Join the Switch, which is basically that every one of us can help instead of sitting down and just complaining. So always taking into account the collaboration and solidarity. With regards of how did I get involved in communication, well, I saw the work of my brother, who is a photographer and a reporter. So my mother told me there was a group of photography, and I went to the first class that took place in the Arturo Michelena kindergarten. As I participated in this photography class, the group became smaller. And in the end, we ended up being 10 reporters from different ages. She's been asked how does she see the future, no, of this activity. And the colleague is going to complement her answer about the future. No? Well, with regards to the future of our country, we have a lot of people that love to work, to produce, and not to be dependent on anyone. And currently, I want to grow as a person, get a stable work, help the people, organizing campaigns. Currently, we're having this campaign, like she said, flip the switch, change the switch, which is basically involving people and making the people to become part of the struggle, to do things instead of just complaining, and always bearing in mind solidarity in an interactive and proactive way, doing things, nice things for community, even funny things, so that people can become aware of the situation by watching memes, by watching banners. On Saturday, we're going to have a special activity, and we're going to be reporting from there. You can visit our social network channels to see all the details. At Altos Lidice, I imagine my commune in the future with a higher degree of progress, with the contribution of each one of the members of the community, not just getting stagnated and sitting down to wait for things to come to us. No, we want to get more things and do more. The idea of us helping the commune is that in 10 years from now, our community is better, so that people can become proactive and help instead of just complaining. The idea is for everyone to help. And you, as part of the youth, how do you see yourself in the future? I want to be a doctor, she says. I want to study mass communication and also medicine. I want to be a doctor because I love to help people. Would you like to go to China? Somebody asked her. And things would be easier if all the people get involved and help instead of just complaining for the water, complaining for the gas. No, they need to be proactive and help. That's why in our community, we try to encourage everyone to help instead of just complaining. Things would be easier if everybody helps. We would have more possibilities. In my community council, the medical office is being built, but people need to help. It's not just about complaining. You need to help. If you would have a young person, somebody is asking them, and if this young person that you're talking to says, oh, I need to go out of Venezuela. No, I tell to these Venezuelans that say that there's no future in Venezuela. No, we have a lot of things to do. All they say is that there's no money in Venezuela. But I would tell them, look, it's possible to produce things in Venezuela. You can, for example, buy corn flour, and you can produce cookies. The problem is that people have the fantasies that abroad life is easier, and it's not like that, because there's the xenophobia in Peru, in the United States. Recently, the president of Peru said that Venezuelans were going to be expelled from Peru. So seriously, let me tell you, in Venezuela, there are so many things to do. There's a bright future waiting for us. So at this point, okay, Jade, she's going to tell you something. Please, Miss Jade, can you share the videos without sound? No, can you share the videos that we send you so that we can explain as people watch the video?
I will show two videos made by you, right?
Yo no entiendo esto.
¿Aló?
Yeah, I'm going to show the video, right?
Sí, por favor. Y ellas entonces van a explicar los videos a medida.
Yes, and they're going to explain the videos. Exactly, that's the idea. You can only show the video, not the audio, and they will explain.
Yeah.
I never made it, but I know I.
No sound.
I'm motivated.
No sound.
I am mixed of emotion, got my statement, and I'm reading
This is.
so I can understand it fully, appreciate my.
We are here painting the walls in the community.
Right on time.
This is a beautiful work that we're doing in the community. Because the idea here, the idea is to rehabilitate the spaces so people don't feel sad. So all the inhabitants of the community collaborate with something so that we can make our community beautiful. In each community council, there's a participation of the people. For example, here. Here is a moment in which the food supplies arrive from the countryside of Venezuela, el Lara state in the west.
¿De dónde vienen
these
estos?
products arrive in this state. Where are these products coming from? From Lara.
¿Qué hora tienes ahí? ¿Qué hora tienes?
Sí, pero, bueno, después te pasa la
So you see how the community
¿De dónde viene esto?
collaborates.
Del maizal.
So this food comes from El Maizal, the name of a community in Lara state. So in this case, they were working with the corn to manufacture flour and then bring these supplies so that people can have access to food in the community. Among the benefits we can mention is the production at low cost to the community. So,
si hubiesen alguna...
yeah, maybe if you have any question that you want to ask to the participants, we can see any questions that you have or any relevant thing that you want to mention. And they can make some comments about it.
Yeah.
Sí.
Both of you mentioned about the food production.
Ambas mencionaron la...
Hello? Can you hear me?
Sí. Sí, te escuchamos.
Yeah.
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the importance of the production, particularly food. Can you describe more about this this important issue? For example, do you involve in food production, and also how you make a contact with the friends from rural communities? Because as we know that Altos de Lidice is in the urban area, so how you make friends with people, with young people from the countryside?
Bueno, nosotros no
Well, we don't act directly in production, but instead in distribution. We help to distribute the food to the people that need it, because the production comes directly from El Maizal and Panal 2021 community. What we do is to help in the distribution, and what we produce internally within our commune is not that significant. So we complement our small production with the food that comes from the other communes. We help to package and distribute. And we obtain our own supplies that we use. And do you sow vegetables? Yes, we have sown medicinal plants, corn, black beans, among others. Yade, do you have any other question?
Yeah, because they are the very beautiful journalists, right? And then what do you learn from this? I mean, the document the people's activity and also their daily life. What do you think the problems in the daily life and what you learn from this the course on the journalism?
Bueno, hemos aprendido mucho.
We have learned plenty of things. We have learned that each one of us needs to contribute. Because, for example, in my community, in my commune, we have problems with water supply. And we receive water because there are reparations, there are repairs, and from the documentaries we have watched, we have learned that each one of us can receive benefits by helping also. We help, everybody helps, and for example, when we do reporting, we communicate people about the problems and the possible solutions. And thanks to our reporting, we have received the benefits. So we have received benefits such as cement, flour, products that help us to repair things in our community, to make our community more beautiful, so that people, when people come to our community, they can see that we are not just a commune that only produces videos to complain, but instead we make proposals to solve our problems. Yeah. And any other questions that you want to
no
ask?
more. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chévere. Igual van a seguir aquí.
They will continue to be here in case you have another question later on. We thank them for their first presentation. Beyond doubts, we can move on and they can take part in the discussions. We're going to listen. As you can see, we have some problems of internet and we apologize. But we are working as a group to solve the internet problems. So we have this improvised studio here. We have people from the Altos de Lidice community here. Gabriela is here. She is the next presenter, Gabriela Peña. We have many Gabrielas today here in our event. And we're going to listen to Gabriela Peña, and then we'll listen to Gabriela Henríquez. Gabriela Peña comes from the movement Jóvenes del Barrio Youth. She worked as part of the Ministry of Commune. She was the Vice Minister of Capacity Building, and recently she was elected as a deputy to the National Assembly. And in fact, we're going to give the floor to her a second presenter because she needs to speak and then run to participate in the session in the National Assembly. So without further ado, we're going to give the floor to Gabriela.
Hola, muy buenos días.
Morning. I hope that you are fine. Thank you, Hernan, for the invitation and to participate in this seminar. we are very happy of listening the presentations of Gabi and the other girl. I know the experience of the community of High the Altos de Lidice community. So I listened carefully the proposals. That's a beautiful job we have witnessed, a work that is done with love and passion. And this is what we have in our country. So Hernan tested me and he told me that you are quite interested in knowing about our experiences, our struggles, and how we do perceive the experience and the protagonist participation of the well-known self-government. In Venezuela, since 22 years ago, the gates were opened, and in 2005, the technical boards were installed, so we started to participate actively there. So we were participating in the waters committee to tackle the water, and then Commander Chavez, he was president, and he was speaking of the organization. So we started to get involved, and we were working with La Dolorita Parish, located in Sucre municipality in the state of Miranda, one of the greatest state in the country. So La Dolorita is one of the smallest community in the region, is overpopulated with significant rates of poverty, but also with the highest rate of Chavismo, which is very ironic. So when you see that in those poor areas, you can also see more Chavista rates in spite of the insecurity rates. There are people related and connected with the government. Then, in that same year, we were working for the community in order to boost it, in order to improve the life quality. So the families may feel the necessity to participate actively for problem solution, like the water supply, for instance. Then I graduated, I obtained my high school diploma in that community, and I wanted to study. Then I enrolled in the National Experimental University of the Armed Forces. I spent 2 years. I was studying engineering. So I spent 2 years in the university, and I then requested some psychological advice. And when he requested me to apply for the vocational test, he suggested me that perhaps I was supposed to study a degree related to the humanities degrees. So perhaps education was suggested, or perhaps mass communication, perhaps a degree that you may get involved. You need to revise your grades, see the grades in math, but your grades in other subjects are higher. So mass communication was the better option. Then I obtained my degree in mass communication. I studied in Santa Maria University, which is a private institution in the country, but it is a university that is close from my community. We were told that it was impossible to study in that university. However, in revolution, everything is possible. And in 2008, I gave a letter to former Mayor Juan Barreto that took place in 2008. So I was called to work in the mayor's office, and I started working in that same year, and I started working as a secretary. So my boss, she told me, Gabriela, what do you study? Are you studying? And I said, no, I'm not studying now, but I want to study. She asked me if I visited the Bolivarian University and the other institutions in the country, but I was telling them that it was not possible for me to work because I was studying and because my parents were not able to help me. So I was committed to help my parents. So she told me, well, look, Gabriela, we can sponsor you with the 50% of the fees regarding Santa Maria University. So thanks to the revolution, I was able to cover my university fees. So the mayor's office was covering the 50% and I was of course paying the remaining 50%. Then I started working in the Latin American University where students study medical studies, students coming from 42 countries. This is a program promoted by Commander Chavez and Fidel Castro, and several cohorts are already graduated from that institution. I was working there, and this is something very curious. From the struggles of the working class, of the true and genuine struggles against corruption. So the organized people in 2012, in fact, when Commander Chavez was speaking of his health condition and he summoned us, he said he enacted the organic law for the benefit of the workers. And he said, I left this commitment to the working class to move forward. So we started to organize in community councils in the Latin American University of Medical Studies. We started working based on the organization. And then, of course, we take into account the Bolivarian awareness and the necessity to tackle important issues. So we find some irregularities in the administration of the institution. So we started to proceed legally. So what happened then? Well, in 2013, we were expelled. Well, no matter what, we were working, we were denouncing because that beautiful project cannot be destroyed by the values of the capitalism or by those individual actions that undermine the institution. So those aspects of the minimalization that are also criticized by President Maduro. So when we were complaining, we were going to the TV stations to denounce. I was invited in 2014. I was invited because the youngs of the communities was formally installed. So Jóvenes del Barrio was born in 2014 and I participated because I like participating. I like having fun, as we said in Venezuela. I like going to the parties, but mostly I like sharing, to share with people. So in that activity, I witnessed the experience of the youth from the slums. So I started working with that team, and Lorena Freites, a friend of mine, was the vice minister of that time. So I started having that experience. So I was involved with the event production thanks to the skills I acquired from my universities. So the way how we see the institution, what we want to show, this is what I really like the most. So we started working with a beautiful project. In 2015, Lorena was promoted and she said to me, Gabi, I would like you to assume the management of that program. And I say, how come? Well, suggest this because I have witnessed your work, and of course I agree with that. In that moment, I was once again recalled by the Elam University, and I had that contradiction. Well, I need to go back to the institution to continue with the struggle in the Elam University. But what I'm going to do now, because now these young people are waiting for me and look this beautiful path. So what was my decision? So I asked for my corresponding vacations in the university. And then I came here to this community to organize the first community program. And then she told me, what are we going to do? Because we need to plan the Olympics. Well, I requested an additional month and I came here to organize that program as well. So I had many vacations. Well, and the fact is that I spent many years working hard there. So that was how I was legally requesting my vacations. So the lives of the young changed, and my experience in the ELAM was to be concluded, and she urged me to assume this project. So I resigned to the ELAM University and I decided to stay in the community youth program. And I decided to stay here because of the young people that have been excluded. For those people who did not have the opportunities. So we want them to move forward and to provide an opportunity. So what is the purpose of this program? To tackle, to help the excluded young people, perhaps people involved with crime rate or with drug consumption. But what we said, come here with us, we're going to help you. So we visited the slums, and then we start working with the organization. And when they see those events, they want to organize other activities for the communities. They want to participate as speakers in the slums. They want to change the reality of their communities. And in many cases, you see how those young people are becoming speakers of the community councils. And this is basically due to the activities we previously organized. Then the call to the people, the call of the people is to work. Then we design a program to promote the entrepreneurship for the youth. So the idea that they have to launch a program may be developed, may be materialized. And thanks to the Bolivarian project, we believe in our youth. We have an additional program, which is basically regarding the recovery, and I spend most of my days in that program is to tackle the addiction, to foster awareness that drugs are not the solution to resolve problems. So no matter the circumstances, we are doing our best to help, or perhaps we are also providing legal assistance for those people who are detained and the legal process is not taking place. So we are there to provide legal assistance. In addition, we are also having the program to tackle the police brutality, because some officers, they think that using that mechanisms are fair, but not. What we're working with the institutions, with the public prosecution office to tackle that problem, because the state and the security is committed to provide legally the proper execution of the legal mechanisms. And those are problems at personal level. So in our programs, we are very strong and consistent to tackle those incoherent actions, because those actions can undermine our Bolivarian project. So this is one of the most significant goals that we have here in the Islam programs. In these 7 years, We have been granted with many opportunities. In fact, the minister, Aristobulus Studies, he asked us to assume the Ministry of Communes. And we thought of that as a huge challenge. So how the youth was supposed to get involved with that project. So that was the decision made by the revolution and Nicolas Maduro. And we, the youth from the slums, we are able to change our realities. And if we want to tackle poverty, well, we need to give the chance to the youth to overcome them. So President Maduro is giving us responsibilities in the institution, and this is the purpose of the establishment of the Youth in the Slums program. So we need to change our reality. In 2019, President Nicolas Maduro gave us the opportunity to hold the positions as ministers of agriculture. So how it's possible that a person from a community, from a poor community, a community in which high crime rates are common expression of every day, well, you see that a minister is now holding the position of a minister in the country. So the purpose of the country is to reach the food sovereignty for the country. And we have our slogan, we need to produce to defeat. We urging the people to promote the slogan of producing is defeating, and we started fostering the sovereign seed production. We are fostering other products like the protein for families and the agricultural products for families. So producers in the farms are able to produce their products and to not depend on agrotoxic products. So we are fostering the training. Remember the slogan of producing to defeat, and nowadays we have a seat in the National Assembly. Well, when I was called to participate in this electoral campaign, was a huge challenge, and let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, from the bottom of my heart, and I'm very thankful to my president because how I'm speaking to you now, this is how we speak to the media, how this is how we speak in the National Assembly. And basically, we're talking about speakers of the people. Now, we want to foster to give the hope to the people. And in Venezuela, we are going to stand on the foot with dignity, with pride, because you see how those girls raised in the revolution for the benefit of our country. When in the Caracas, for instance, when that coup attempt took place, I was very young, 11 months. That incident when the Venezuelan people was against the actions of the liberal actions, liberal actions of the International Monetary Fund, well, by the Venezuelan people with the passion of Bolivar, of Antonio José de Sucre, of our liberators, with our passion of freedom. Well, that was also the place, that was the moment when we were born. We are now for almost 22 years spending in the struggle for the passion in order to transform and to raise the flags of Bolivar and Zamora, the general of the people, and also of Simon Bolivar, the teacher of the liberator. Those are the basis for the country. This is basically the basis to do my job. I have believed in Chavez. Chavez was speaking very clear to us. He was explaining everything in detail, and we were feeling deeply identified. But of course, Bolivar is our liberator. And Simon Rodriguez was the one who was teaching Bolivar. And he said that we need to teach children to ask questions. And that's very important because they need to ask. So that's the purpose of the revolution. We need to defeat defend our principles, to not negotiate our principles with nobody. So we need to be transparent, to keep the spirit of the struggle, but also the transparency of the process that we have been involved during this process. So in the office of the people and the communication, the commission that I belong to, it is a great honor, and I'm your disposal to participate in any activity, because we're committed to tell the truth about Venezuela. We are convinced that only together we are going to establish the homeland that we need and that we require, as Jose Marti said. The love and the passion are very essential. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. Thank you very much for listening to me, and blessings to you all. Thank you. Thank you, Gabriela, for your participation. She has been having an interesting experience. Now, let me see if there is another question.
Based on all the experiences shared, revolution involves economy, communication, and other fields of life, and also finding solutions for the problems we face as citizens. So you saying that the revolution is an alternative to the model that is being imposed in other countries? Let's see if there's another question. No, that's the question for now. So, Jade, is there any question in the streaming?
Yeah, we have some questions. Question 1, how do you become National Assembly deputy? Question 2, are there many young people like you in the National Assembly?
Sí.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to give her the floor now for answering the questions, Jade. Yes. For the first question, the answer, yes. We consider that our political project, the Bolivarian project, the project that highlights the human being as the center of everything, the project that is oriented to the growth of human beings, of full development, the social protection of the people. Yes, it's an example for other peoples of the world. We are an alternative. And we keep working in our country to project our efforts to inspire others. And we are creating more than 48,000 communal councils, which is the primary type of organization. And we are creating more than 360 communes, which is like the cell of socialism. With the militants of the Polo Patriótico, I'm part of the leaders of my political party, and we belong to a coalition of patriotic parties in which we hold debates about the truth, about how can we build an alternative. Oh, she got frozen now. It seems the communication interrupted. She's back. So the idea is that this Bolivarian and Chavista project goes beyond borders, and we are at your service so that you can see our experiences from close and you can have a first-hand experience of our achievements. Now, with regards to the question, if there are other young people holding the position of deputies to the National Assembly, yes. And there was a question about how did I obtain my position? Well, I was able to become a deputy because of the work we have done in our neighborhoods. I think Jóvenes del Barrio, my movement, has been a platform that helped me to become a deputy. Not because of what Gabriela is. No, it's because of the collective achievement. The collective efforts have brought us this far. Our president has seen our efforts and has given us institutional responsibilities, and there have been concrete achievements in our communities. And this is a key element. The Socialist Party of Venezuela has also given us the opportunity to be leading the committee of communes, because the president has inspired us to be a space for highlighting the social policies, and we have worked hard for this. So I would say that I reached the position of deputy to the National Assembly because of the achievements we have had, because of our collective work of proposing things, of making things happen. We have in this new National Assembly a lot of young deputies. 40% of the new National Assembly is integrated by young people. This is an important piece of information to have into account. And 40% of the National Assembly are women. Next Monday, we will celebrate the Day of Women. And this is important to highlight. In Venezuela, we're not just 4 or 5 leaders or 1,000 leaders. No, we are so many leaders, so many thousands of leaders in our country. It's not just the deputies. I mean, now the new young deputies of the National Assembly is the first time that we hold political positions in our parliament. So we are part of the new generation. How the deputies are elected? Well, we are elected on the basis of electoral circuits. We have national deputies, first of all. We have regional deputies. In our country, we have 24 states or regions and a capital district. And we have also deputies that are elected on the basis of circuits. The circuits are related to territorial realities. So based on this, we were able to obtain 272 main deputy seats and 240 substitutes. And we have seen that the opposition obtained 21. And why the opposition obtained just a few seats? Well, because unfortunately most of the opposition have had promoted violence and coercive measures against the Venezuelan people instead of participating in the election. That's why you see that the majority of deputies belong to the Polo Patriótico, and most of the opposition didn't participate. And that's why the opposition only has 21 deputies. Even though we have repeated from the beginning of the revolution that the best way to reach the power is participating in elections, but the opposition has decided to take other ways. No, instead we promote civilized struggle, dialogue, peace, and we are projecting this from the National Assembly. So far, we have conducted 12 parliamentary sessions in which we have participated, and the 21 representatives of the opposition have participated and have approved certain projects. So we have decided to build a country model based on dialogue, setting the differences aside and finding common grounds for economic prosperity, economic growth, defending and expanding the independence of our country, keep working on the construction of the Bolivarian socialism, and working for a multipolar world, and participating in seminars like this, and oriented towards the preservation of human beings and the human species in the planet. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Gabriela. Well, I don't see any other questions. Unless you have an additional question, Jade, we can go to the next presenter. What do you say? Okay, let's move on. Well, now we're going to listen to another Gabriela Henríquez from the Audrobeta Movement. Gabriela is one of the references of the Audrobeta Movement, a nationwide movement that we have presented previously in this seminar last year in the session that we held about the grassroots movement in the urban areas. We spoke with other representatives of Audrobeta, but this time we will speak to Gabriela and listen to her perspective and listen to her life experiences. So the floor is yours, Gabriela. Gabi, you want us to share material, right? Videos that you sent to us. Okay, well, the floor is yours. Tell her to unmute, please.
Gabriela, tienes muteado el micrófono.
Pero no se escucha.
Gaby, no se escucha casi. ¿Tú tienes ajustado el volumen de manos libres? Habla, a ver. Te acercas un poco a la boca a ver si por ahí es el problema.
¿Ahora sí? Ahora sí, ¿me escuchan?
Se escucha bastante bajo.
¿Sí me escuchas o no?
Yo lo vi directo por la computadora, ¿qué tal?
Ya va.
She's testing the headset because it's not possible to hear her. Let's see.
No se escucha. No se escucha. Quizás sin los audífonos.
So we'll give it a try without the headset to see if it works. Hold on. Mejor. Now we can hear her. Yes. Not perfect, but we can hear her. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the technical issues. I'm in the house of a neighbor because internet doesn't always work well, but I was able to connect finally. Since I'm going to share some personal experiences, let me tell you a story on how I have worked as a social activist since I was 13. I was helping my parents with the urban land committees. That was an effort promoted by President Chavez to guarantee the possibility of holding property to the people that have built houses in the urban areas. So because it was necessary for people to have their property deeds, and the people were not the owners of their own houses. So we started to work with the land committees for people to finally obtain a property deed of their houses. So then later on, I participated in several organizations in my neighborhood. We created a chess club with the participation of people from different areas of the community, children and young people learning to play chess. It was a very positive initiative. It was a possibility of exploring the capacities of young people. And this was not seen before in the barrio, in the neighborhood. So these kind of activities were uncommon. The chess, no? It was much more common to see the activities related to sport. So I started to study secondary school. I continued participating in different initiatives. I was always helping other students to pass their courses. So I was always connected to people, trying to help, always connected to capacity building. Later on, when I graduated, I had the chance to study an expensive university program, audiovisual communication. So it was really hard for a low income community person to study audiovisual communication. But thanks to my scores at the high school, I received a scholarship. I also studied sociology at the Central University of Venezuela. And later on, in 2005, 2006, I was called to participate in an audiovisual experience in a place called ALBA TV, which was the first young TV station in Venezuela that aimed at giving visibility to the experiences and the communication codes of the young people from the low-income sectors in Caracas. I was able to produce several programs. I was in a department in the TV station, and it was a really interesting experience because all the research works that I have been engaged previously was able for enabling us to make visible all the efforts that we conducted previously with the community. So it was a really nice way to put my skills at the service of people. So the idea was to visualize all the efforts in the communities. And so I was thinking, well, I'm visualizing, rendering visible things, but I was interested in doing more. So several colleagues joined and created the Audrobeta Movement, which is basically a young people movement with the objective of rendering visible the experiences, the communication codes of the people in the low-income communities with different work agendas. Most of the young people that founded this movement come from low-income neighborhoods, and we had the opportunity and the privilege of studying, of conducting research that many young people in low-income communities don't have that privilege because they suffered from problems of violence, among others. So somehow we wanted to give back to our communities all the support that we received by our parents. So we wanted to help other youngsters to develop in their neighborhoods, respecting the experiences and their communication code. So we created this movement. This young movement has several working fields. We take into account production, sport, research, and our strongest field, capacity building, training. So all these strategic lines have developed working plans. That way, we have been able to create networks of young people in the different communities in everything related to involving these young people in work. We had the opportunity to meet President Chavez and explain him our plan. So one of our scopes is to lower the violence rate in our neighborhoods. And the only way you can do that is through education. And I'm not talking just about formal education. We believe that the experiences, the empiric experiences, are also helpful, and they can help to change the communities so that these youngsters in their communities can become multipliers of capacity building. For us, that's very important. We have been able to develop an educational development plan with our National Institution of Training of Trades that is called INSES. So we have these training programs we have created, and the INSES, the institution, somehow certifies this program. So these young people complete, for example, a training and receives a certificate. And this is very important. So our young people can feel useful for their own communities, and they're able to multiply this information to others. In the socio-productive field, we have been able to empower more than 500 young people with several projects held in their communities, creating networks of projects in different states of Venezuela in the field of sports. We have a program called Among Neighborhoods, or Entre Barrios, involving several disciplines and sports. These are sport activities and friendly competitions between the different neighborhoods. In the field of art and culture, we have two records. We have had the opportunity to support different music groups. We are a horizontal organization, and we believe it's important to hold conversations, dialogues, without any impositions, because the young people are rebel. They want to do things. So we cannot just go and impose our methodology. So we respect the way young people want to develop their projects. So that's one of our main characteristics, the horizontality, to be able to develop these plans shoulder to shoulder with community. So maybe a young person that doesn't fit precisely in political movements or the formal structures of society, well, we have a space for that kid, and he or she can be part of a structure that can work for the benefit of the community. With regards to the field of communication, we have been able to develop several plans. We have a YouTube channel. We have been able to develop several campaigns. Among them, there's a campaign called Proud of Our Neighborhood. And this campaign speaks about all these young people that do things that are important for them, for their families, and for their communities. Hernan, at this point, I want you to show the videos that I sent you so that you can see the core of this campaign.
Jade, ¿tú puedes iniciar el compartir el video, por favor?
Jade, can you share the video, please?
Yes.
De los tres videos.
There's a free videos. I will show
Which one?
it, right? Which one?
Los tres. The whole three. All of them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All of them, yes.
Gaby, ¿tú los necesitas con audio o sin audio?
Do you need it with audio or without audio? With audio. In this case, with audio, because there are conversations.
¿Dónde están los muchachos del Otrobeta? ¿Ustedes han oído hablar de esto? Me han invitado a participar, pero acepto, soy Otrobeta.
Jae, what you have to do is first have the video open and then share the screen. But you need to have the video open first and then select it. That way you can share it, because at this moment we cannot see the...
Participando en la construcción de la patria nueva, luchando contra los males heredados del capitalismo. Hay que luchar duro, muchachos y muchachos. Cuenten con todo mi apoyo, el movimiento, el otro beta. Saben, es otro beta, pues.
Can you hear me, Jade? What you have to do, Jade? You need to open the video first, and then you share it.
I already opened. Play
Okay.
the video.
Perfect. You open the video, and then in screen share, you don't select sharing desktop. You share exactly the video you want to show at the moment.
Yeah.
¿Se logró ver algo?
Si quieres, lo colocas de nuevo desde el inicio, ya. A ver si se logra.
Estamos en tiempos de reparaciones.
We are in times of repairing things. Each one of us is participating. This is a feeling that unites us. Work, collective work. I work with tires.
Poner a trabajar.
I'm always fixing the tires.
Le apuesto a mi país.
So I work for my country.
Yo
I'm
estoy
enthusiastic about my job.
orgulloso del barrio.
I'm proud of my neighborhood. This is the first. These hands that work since the sun comes up, like my ancestors. I'm waiting for a moment to share. I'm here working the cassava for my family. This root makes us stronger. We work for everyone to keep ourselves united. That's why I feel proud. I'm proud of my community. As you can see, this is a campaign that highlights the ethnical features of the people. We see in the second video an indigenous Piaroa young woman. We also saw a brother that works repairing tires. He works with tires, this trade. He learned it in our program of training. So beyond believing that we're going to have the perfect formula for rescuing our young people in the communities, we believe that the training is the core for helping young people to develop. It's important for us to learn things, to be able to create contents, to redesign policies, to create strategies. So part of our training program is focused on understanding ourselves and how can we transform things in a positive way in our communities. That's the core of our national training program. So we not only teach young people to do something, but the idea is that they can share this knowledge with the communities to create networks. This is the best way to lower the crime rates. Sometimes young people involved in criminal activities because they don't have an alternative. But instead, if you create work as a possibility, unfortunately, some young people involved in criminality see crime as a work because they don't have an alternative and their lifespan is very reduced. So that's why through our policies that we have developed in a sustainable way with the support of the Bolivarian government, we have created alternate ways to help young people to learn these activities in all of our spaces that we have in the different neighborhoods, the so-called endogenous nuclei. And we have also these activities that are developed in the different communities. Our endogenous centers or nuclei are located in the neighborhood in Venezuela with the highest population rate. So we have these training programs that involve socioproductive activities, communication, among others, in other neighborhoods. We have also a research line that is a cross-sectional research line. We have developed 3 research works related to the preferences of young people in the communities, preferences with regards to politics, to culture, to sports. And this has helped us to generate and to create the tools to move forward with our training plan based on the strategic lines I described before for the years ahead. So Venezuela at this time being lives a difficult situation. There's a depoliticization in our country. However, we are working to convey the message to our young people to understand properly the reality. So I emphasize the importance here of training, of capacity building. We teach them the before and the aftermath, how positive changes can take place in the community. If a young person is in a violence network, he can move out of violence and integrate in the work of community. So this year we have been working in something very important, which is a new area in our movement. Is we're working to combat gender violence. We have had, unfortunately, a high rate of women homicides in Venezuela in the last year. So we are implementing a plan to prevent gender violence, because this is a sensitive issue. The life of our women, of our mother, of our girls, of our grandmothers. So we are working intensively in this plan in several areas of Venezuela. In our centers of training, we try to provide protection. We support our young women that are victims of violence. We support them, help them. So this is our first experience in this new important field in a formal way. So this is a new line of research and a new field for work for us. Self-management is the key to implement policies, and so that the policies don't disappear as time goes by. We believe that people's movement and grassroots movements need to coordinate efforts to be able to successfully reach the objectives and the objectives set, so that we don't need to depend on anyone. Self-sustainability is very important. We have understood that self-sustainability gives us independence to work to implement the plans with a coordination and not with separated efforts. We have been working in Audrobeta for 10 years, a movement that was born in the heat of the Bolivarian Revolution. And we believe that it's necessary to move forward, to go deeper. There are contradictions that need to be cleared. The training work with our children, adolescents, is a key. Hernan, I think I finished my presentation. Now we can open the space for discussion. Thank you, Gabriela, for this wonderful description. You describe your journey, no? Both at a personal and an organizational level. Jae, Do you have any question you want to ask?
Yes. Yeah. Gabriela, you mentioned about your struggle in on housing ownership when you are a small girl. So what's the difference now? What's the achievement after so many years of struggle for the house ownership? This is the question one. And question two is about, you mentioned about the violence on women. And can you explain more? What's the reasons? Is this because of the economic sanction, blockade, or the pandemic, or any reasons? Can you explain more? And as far as we know, there are also quite a lot of violence on women in Mexico. Are there any similarities or difference? Yeah, thank you.
Now is your turn to answer, Gabriela. Were you able to listen to the questions? Yes, but if you want to translate to the rest of the people, no, there is a simultaneous interpretation, so everybody is able to listen, so no problem. So there's simultaneous interpretation into Spanish and English. So in any case, one of the questions have to do with the difference on the struggle for housing and for land property, and what were the differences? No, the before and the after, with the arrival of the revolution, if the situation has changed with the property of housing. And the second question had to do with gender violence. What are the factors that have incidence, and what are the fundamental problems that have to do with this gender violence, the pandemic, the economic problems, the sanctions? So what is behind? So we're going to give you the floor now. With regard to housing, this has been a problem for years for young people in our country. In general, young people have always had difficulties to have their own houses. We have seen growth in teen pregnancy, young couples who are 16 years old and have a son or a daughter, and they don't own their own house. They need to live in the house of their parents or in the house of a relative. So for young people, housing ownership has always been complicated. However, there are initiatives such as the Pobladores movement, the Populators movement, that has tried to incorporate young people to build their own houses, but still it's not a massive policy. So we believe the housing issue is a serious problem. The programs by the Bolivarian government, such as Misión Vivienda, have helped, but our country does not impose limits to people for having children. So you have families in Venezuela with 6 or 7 sons. So this renders things complicated. Gabriela is in mute. Sorry, she's muted. So I just told her to unmute herself. Okay, now we can listen to her. So in the cities, in the 4 major cities of Venezuela, we can see a high population density. So the possibilities of purchasing a house are complex for the young people. And that's why you have the young people having their own houses after they are 30 years old, or building progressively their house, or getting a bank loan. That's a reality. However, we Venezuelans we are trying to create alternatives. Even if we have faced these difficulties, we always try to find a way out. We, young people, try to solve these problems regardless of the complex scenario. So if you don't have the possibility as a young person to move to your own house next year, maybe it will be in the next 5 years, but it will happen because we are always focused on reaching our goal. We are a happy people in Venezuela oriented towards reaching the goals. Now, with regards to the gender violence issue, this is a sensitive issue this year. We have seen more than 22 women homicides last year. And these are official rates because sometimes other women are killed and these figures are not official. So I think the problem has to do with the patriarchal heritage we have received, and these type of situations continue to happen due to bad tradition. Recently, there was a case in the west of Venezuela of 2 young women who were killed. And so we are trying to make this problem visible because we need to stop blaming the victim for what happened. We need to show the real roots of the problem. There are no excuses for these situations to happen. So it has to do with patriarchal culture to blame the victim. The victim is not guilty of what happened to her. So this is something we need to eliminate from our mind to understand the real reasons behind the gender violence. We have a patriarchal heritage. However, the Venezuelan women are mostly respected. In Venezuela, you see the men that respect their wife and their mother, but there is still a structure that does not provide enough protection to women. Even though during the revolution there was a law approved for protecting the rights of women. However, still there is fear among some women to denounce, to file complaints when they are victims of violence. And in that sense, in Audrobeta, in our organization, we have detected that it was important to change the culture, to change the perception, because this is something essential. We need to train our women to understand the importance of respect, that they cannot be beaten by their father or by their husband. We need to boost this transformation of culture through our workshops, through our training, through our courses. So one thing that we emphasize a lot is the prevention of gender violence. We start teaching children and adolescents. Obviously, we need to address these issues in a careful way when you are teaching this topic to children. So we have different focuses in which we try to communicate this to people. Any other question?
Yes.
Have you experienced building houses out of clay? I think Jade has another question.
Yeah. we still have 3 questions for Gabriela. One, are young people in debt? And second one, how strong are the mafia controlling young people in your district? And the question 3, are you connected to indigenous young people? Do they face different situations?
I was not able to listen to the first question. Can you repeat the first question, Jai?
The first questions,
La primera
are young people in debt? Debt, D-E-B-T, debt.
Yeah, it's clear, it's clear. So we have 3 elements. One has to do with how the debt works for young people, no? If young people is always indebted, how is that? And the second is if it's strong the control of mafias in your neighborhood or in the low-income neighborhood. I want to know your experience. And the third question is, what kind of connection do you have with the indigenous people? Because they have different problems and struggles. I'm going to answer the first question and has to do with the debt. Yes, due to the unilateral sanctions against Venezuela, the young people have to face a lot of debts because they need to solve their daily problems. However, at least the water supply and the education is free. And this is a good benefit in our neighborhoods because the price of water in other countries is very expensive. The electricity supply is not expensive. However, the cost of food in Venezuela has grown remarkably. So young people need to use a lot of resources to buy their food. So you need to have more than one job to be able to make ends meet, to bring food to your table, to be able to pay utilities such as internet, no? Among others. And in the communities, most of the families have their children in school states, so education at least is affordable for people. School may cost you $20 to $30 per month, but the minimum wage is $4, I think, in Venezuela. So clearly it's not enough money. So people need to have 2 or 3 jobs. Venezuelans are like that. They try to find solutions for the problems. In Venezuela, you will not see a family not sending their child to school because the communities understand the importance of education and they find the ways to send their children to school. So people get indebted, but these debt are investment. I see that around me that these debts are quickly paid because most of the people have more than one job. With regards to the other question about the indigenous young people. Yes, we have contacts with the people in the indigenous groups in the Amazonas region. The video that you saw is a video of a community, of an indigenous community. The indigenous girl you were watching in the video is Mañoco production. It's a food that is produced by working the cassava. This element kept our indigenous people strong because they ate this root. Our indigenous people were strong and resisted the Spanish invasions in the past. So we have several groups of training for young people in the Amazonas region. So we have been able to understand the working knowledge in their communities. So we are familiar with what's going on there. We understand that the young people is different in the different regions of the country, and their needs are different, their methods are different, their skills are different, the interest of the young people is different. So we work in coordination. And with regards to violence, we have been working in Petare, my neighborhood, for 10 years. We have been working in different communities in different states of Venezuela. So basically, our work is in the low-income neighborhoods, and we have to face violence networks. But at least the violence networks have not messed with us. Somehow they respect our work. We have lost teachers, we have lost some students and militants, because unfortunately some people have been in the wrong place in the wrong time, maybe when a shootout took place. There have been some violence situations in communities. However, our work has not been affected by those criminal networks, because somehow some criminals have children also, and sometimes those children are also studying and participating in networks. So somehow we are respected. This as an answer to your question.
Any other further question? Or do we continue with the following speaker? Well, since there's no questions, let's continue with the following speaker. Thank you, Gabriela. Please, we urge you to not leave the place, since we're going to have an ending activity. Well, we're going to continue with the presentation of Mr. José Guzmán, well known as Tato. He is a militant of the leftist movement. Tato, he is from the Central University of Venezuela. He has been involved in activism, in activities regarding the commune, and in the schools for the strengthening of the people's power and the commune. And he is coming here to strengthen the political and the ideologies background training in the communes. Well, I will not provide further details about his history because he is going to speak about it in details. Thank you, Jose, for your presentation, and we're eager to listen to you. Well, you have the floor. Thank you. What a great pleasure to listen all the presentations of my brothers and sisters. We have been knowing their experiences. I have spent some years in the commune ministry. I have some experience, and that experience has been beautiful. And we have worked with the Audrobeta movement and with the ALBA social movement too. Por favor, pueden indicarle al orador que hable más fuerte, por favor. Well, we have been working other social aspects which are very important. We are actively participating. But of course, we have also experienced some unfortunate situations as well. So to be brief with my history, we are influenced by our parents. And in my case, my parents influenced me as well. So I went to visit the state of Yaracuy with my parents to visit and to be familiar with that reality. I visited and knew the experiences in hospitals, the mission, the social mission Barrio Adentro. That was when I was around 10, 11 years old. I wanted to tell you the following. Let me tell you something very interesting that I remember when Chavez was elected and it was publicly announced on national television. So when Chavez won, my family, my relatives, the neighborhood, they were happy because hope was emerging once again. And of course, that's very important because that was a moment when we started a different path in relation to the preceding political parties that were ruling our country. So elections were becoming an important decision for Venezuelans since Chavez. So the electoral participation rates were higher. So after having that experience, and the moment when my father was not only an elector, my father was getting involved with politics and he was elected properly. And he started working with the citizens, with the communities. But my father always considered that health was essential for all people. And that marked my heart, but also in moral terms as well. And Chavez, in fact, was a constant trainer. He was highlighting the necessity of going through the path for teaching and educating the new citizen in Venezuela. When Chavez reformulated the structure of the state, he included two new branches of the public power, the moral branch of the public power, for instance, and the citizens branch of the public power. Those were the new powers that Chavez included within the public power of Venezuela. And you know, we were watching Aló Presidente, which was the program of late President Chavez. And we were always watching the program of President Chavez. We were coinciding with many aspects, and sometimes we disagree with him, of course. But there was always a training based on the revolutionary and ethical terms. For the best training, for the best education of the citizen. And then in 2002, when I was in my school, we suffered the consequences of the oil coup. the opposition people were basically stagnated, while the people who were within the support of the Venezuelan people, we were continuing with the activities, with our work, with our classes. But when President Chavez was illegally ousted from the government, well, the people rescued Commander Chavez. I also participated and I also witnessed that event. So those experiences, in general terms, affected the way how I feel and the way how I perceive the reality in my country. Let me tell you that my high school diploma has a major in humanities, in social sciences. Then I enrolled in the Central University of Venezuela. And in the university, many of those Chavistas ideas are there. And many of those ideas also were summed to the Quinta República, the Fifth Republic movement, which was led by late President Chavez. There were many expectatives, hope, dream. And as I was telling to Gabriela, we have a free education in which we do not pay nor the academic fees or even the meals which are granted in our universities. We were also participating in 14 schools in the university, schools which were reading the Marxism. And in my case, in the psychology school, we were reading a lot about the words of Ignacio Martinez Baró, a person that reivindicates the principles of the Marxism and the practices in the benefit of the people. So we were interacting by having dialogues, we were sharing. And then in 2009, the strongest revolutionary forces were not anymore in the university because they were taking part in the construction of public policies. Intellectuals were involved in that working activities as well, and were ruling, leading, and were also participating actively in the ministries of Venezuela. So we understood that that was the result of the effort. Nonetheless, the right-wingers started to actively work in the Central University of Venezuela. But in our case, we were against the policies of the right-winger actions in the university. We led internal demonstrations in the university. Those actions and protests were against those leaders that were supporting those right-winger authorities in the university. We had some differences because, of course, they were ignoring those poor classes in the universities and preventing them from the right to study in the university. Just imagine that they were restricting the number of seats to be enrolled in the university, and that was something that we were demonstrating and totally against too. Well, we were also involved in the construction in additional educational centers that were basically constructed in the years of President Chavez's administration. So in that way, those students that were excluded from the educational systems were entitled to be enrolled in other institutional activities. So new opportunities were given to those people interested in studying. As a matter of fact, the Bolivarian University of Venezuela was formally established. There were also some experimental universities that were created. Let me tell you this. One of the fears they have is that when we were living rented in a house, but thanks to the legislation that was approved by the administration of President Chavez, the fees were normalized, were standardized, so we were able to continue with our activities and to pay properly the rent. And given the time that we have been spending living as renters, thanks to the legislation approval, we were able to buy our house. Those are legal frameworks that were sponsored, that were approved during the Chavez administration for the benefit of the people of Venezuela. So public policies passed since Chavez administration are positively affecting the life, the way how you see and perceive, because it is giving you the chance to start and to continue with your life. So there were also people having difficulties to buy some food products. Nonetheless, there were other food activities, there were food markets on the streets at fair prices where people were able to purchase their food products. During Chavez administration, we were trying also to encourage and to foster the national production instead of purchasing and importing food products. And Venezuela has been doing positive changes in this matter. So those events has been increasingly changing my life. So when I was in the university, and this is how I directly get involved with the social movements and the political realms in Venezuela, we have places for discussion, for political discussion, for the benefit of the people, and for discussing also the ideas of the revolution. And we were analyzing the historical struggles of the country. And other groups, we were guided by professors like Professor Figueroa, a professor from my school in the university. So we started fostering training courses in order to move forward and to foster political awareness. We were promoting the reading of important academical authors like Professor Enrique Dussel and others. So those ideas will allow to improve and to get better the conditions, the living conditions in the community. So once again, the training, the ideas that we share. we were working and sharing also with the landless movement from Brazil. We shared with the ALBA movements as well. So from this position against, for instance, the political authorities from a university, we demonstrated, and as a matter of fact, we were protesting in our dining room for claiming for the reivindication of the rights of the students in our universities. Sometimes, for instance, the food quality was very poor and it was decomposed and it was inappropriately cooked and then provided to the students. So we were denouncing, we were protesting against those things that were taking place in the university. So then we were to demonstrate, and we were demonstrating at the presidency office of the university. And that was a massive and polemical demonstration in the university. So then we were in the light of the scenario. The situation by that time was worsening. Approximately 400 students were supporting that demonstration in the university. Just imagine that the total of number of students enrolled in the university was almost 18,000. So we were working for the depoliticization of the university, and we were claiming for the improvements of the dining room and the university, and for the improvement of the meals to the students as well. Some professors were protesting as well. They were assuming the call that was launched by some associations that were against the revolutionary process. So basically, we were in the middle of that struggle. So our position was very clear. Our position was merely Chavista, because we were supporting the commander. And we did so because of the arguments, the solid arguments we had. It was not because of economic interest. It was not because we were share or we signed some secret agreements with them. No. We were an autonomous student movement that was recognizing the objectivity of the public policies of the government for the benefit of the people, that must tackle the majority of the population. So we were defending the revolutionary ideas of Commander Chavez, and we assume those ideals as well for the daily struggles. And we assume the position that the university must be open to the people. In the confrontation events with the authorities, let me tell you about the situation in Venezuela in which the right-winger political parties are involved in those demonstrations. And the student movement from those years, and this one is now belonged to these demonstrations led by the political parties of the Venezuelan opposition. Nonetheless, we identify
and this brought as a consequence that the struggles of the people changed. We lost a lot of leaders that somehow ended up becoming part of work positions and left the struggle. So it was necessary to count on their presence. So those years were complicated because of this situation. And in the offices of the state, somehow the dynamics is different. The dynamics is institutional. So the struggle is different in the walls of the institution and in the streets. There were years back then, at the beginning of the revolution, there was a prosperity in somehow in Venezuela, and later on, when we became a reference in the university, we started to organize in collectives, in different grassroots movements, and coordination was born among grassroots movements. We were able to found a newspaper, to refound a newspaper called Proceso. So we started to do our own street journalism to raise awareness about the struggle. We started to visit different parts of Venezuela, working with different groups and organizations. Later on, we closed this newspaper, and another newspaper of the community was born. And we started to work with Avanzada Popular, another grassroots movement. And a new stage took place. And we started to work with this new editorial initiative. Things that we identified as elements of public policy, of critical public policy that needed to be taken into account by the authorities. So our newspaper was devoted to the social organization as an instrument of social organization. This enabled us to accumulate experiences of dialogues with leaders in the communities, something that we haven't had before. We started to speak to people from other states, from other regions of Venezuela. And in a parallel manner, I'm speaking about 2015, 2016, we incorporated in a training initiative in the San Agustin del Sur neighborhood in the west of Caracas with young people. In this low-income neighborhood in downtown Caracas, we started training young people in coordination with INSES, with the Venezuelan Institution for Trades training. We started to work with a platform called San Agustin Convive, a human rights organization in this neighborhood. We will work with them and learned a lot about the defense of human rights, about how to rescue people in difficulties in a low-income neighborhood. How could we coordinate jobs with social labor in the case of young people, how to rescue young people from risky situations. And this was a very valuable work for our learning process, for our grassroots efforts. And later on, Chavez had already guided us for the transformation of communities, but these initiatives were vital for the construction of the communes. And I say that this is a parallel work because while a group of us was working with this initiative, another group was involved in work in another neighborhood called El Valle, boosting another commune called March the 5th. So all these processes took place simultaneously in combining efforts. And within this process, we learned about how to build communes, studying carefully all the laws that were passed by the Bolivarian government. Reinaldo Iturriza was a vital figure. He held the position as minister. We worked shoulder to shoulder with him. And Reinaldo Iturriza was an important person to mention. He has written books. He is a person who has written material based on the experiences in the communities. So we started to work in the construction of communes, and I visited then the El Maizal commune, and also the Che Guevara commune that you heard about in a previous session. They also presented here in these sessions. And we started to work in an initiative, and we started to work in the construction of communal schools for teaching ideology in our communes. We also promoted the Che Guevara School and the Carlos Mariátegui School, and we are now providing support to an effort in a school that is in the east of Venezuela. So in the aftermath of the death of President Chavez, after Chavez died, we were in a sort of crisis because Chavez was very important for us and he physically disappeared. However, the struggle needed to continue. No? We started to study the theory of the communes in Chile, in Paris, the original communes, what Marx wrote about communes, the communes in the indigenous settings, because Chavez was always encouraging us to study, to understand these initiatives, and he was a reference and he disappeared overnight. But that didn't interrupt our efforts. So our project entered back then in a sort of crisis. I can tell you that we have militants and people participating with different perspectives. However, the conviction is one. You may enter in depression and sometimes you wonder, should I continue doing this? What happened was that when Chavez died, this triggered a self-reflection for us because we considered him a father, as a relative. Everybody felt it in a different, felt him in a different way. In any case, he was an icon for us, and suddenly we lost him. And so we started to wonder, okay, well, we need to interpret his ideas and apply them. We believe that the most important thing of his heritage is people's construction, the popular construction, the construction of different social relationships. We believe that one of the most important things that we received as heritage is taking the production means and take them over in a new regime oriented to the communes, to the communities, for the benefit of the communities, with a social orientation, with an alternative orientation. So we started to work in this idea, these processes of study, of how to dwell with the different issues, always trying things, making mistakes, but oriented towards the objective. How to do politics and social work in our own way, in the way we understand things, how we feel it, and based on our principles. And the principles we have assumed from the teachings we received from Commander Chavez, and that we try to implement in this Bolivarian process that is changing things to the roots. I have to say that personally I worked in a newspaper related to culture, a newspaper from the Ministry of Culture, just like the sisters you spoke with previously. Reinaldo Iturriza, as I said before, had a key role as an ideologist. And finally, I ended up working for a long period in the people's movement, receiving support from an organization, the Internationalist Training School. You're going to watch a video soon. I received like $10 per month, and I was able to use these resources to keep working and doing social work, promoting pedagogy and learning throughout the country, trying to put into practice all the things we learned from President Chavez, from the teachings at the university, how to implement all the things related to public policies, combining all these experiences and all these teachings. So we went and visited every corner of Venezuela, going to the Andean area, to the east of Venezuela, traveling, visiting communes, working with the different brigades and the working groups with Eli Matos, Messias, and with other brothers and sisters from the PT from Brazil. And this was an enriching experience that brought a lot of hope and motivation, because somehow you feel that you're not alone, but instead that there's a lot of people doing similar work to you, militants, social workers, who are in other states of Venezuela or in other countries doing the same job regardless of the precariousness. And it's possible to do successfully collective work and bring results and move forward towards altruism and bringing concrete results, which aims at making possible deep transformation. So you can see young people, community leaders, political leaders, all of these young people maybe were interested in moving to a different country, but instead, when they maybe go to another country, decide to go back to Venezuela and instead working for their communities to impulse the development of communities. Maybe not using technical language, but with the intention of creating an impact in the transformation of communities and raising awareness in the Venezuelan territory. And Chavez touched a fiber of our soul as students, as workers. So we need to touch the fiber of the heart of other people and bring motivation to these people for the collective benefit. And these are the principles that guide us. So within this process, we traveled in trucks. We traveled in precarious transportation means. In Venezuela, we are currently having difficulties with distribution of fuel. So it was complicated for us to find fuel. Sometimes we didn't have anything to eat. However, we had the goal clear. Sometimes we even camped at the beach, and there were dwellers of these states that helped us. So this has been a great experience because you receive a lot of solidarity from people that don't know you. Because in the end, the people save the people. And within this process, we have been able to build what we have today as schools for community training, as internationalist schools, as the Left Cultural Front that today is engaged in building a house. We are building a house in El Valle in the 5 de Marzo, March the 5th Commune to honor Commander Chavez. We are building a house to promote the attention to women who had been victim of gender violence and patriarchal violence. We are working in rescuing people that are addicted to drugs or that are homeless. So we keep working also in the student dorms that are in Plaza Venezuela in Caracas. So we are working in the different reivindications also to give spaces for students to be able to have a place to sleep, to go to university. Recently, there was a controversy about how the young people can have an option to accommodation, to free and public accommodation, so that there can be a model of co-government in a free accommodation for university students. So there is a council, for example, with the participation of spokespersons of students. And this has to do with the democratic struggle, with the model of participatory democracy promoted by President Chavez. So it's important to always keep the participatory democracy because it's the tool for people to express their voice. It's the way that communal councils can express their voice, access funding, and be able to build, for example, community-oriented companies. So we see how democracy has a social character, an economic character, a political character. So this is the idea that we believe in, this struggle process that Chavez taught us. So we continue defending these achievements that we have had as a grassroots movement. So this is such a collection of personal stories and anecdotes. But let me tell you, we are so politicized that sometimes for us it's difficult to speak in an individual manner without taking into account all the collective initiatives, without taking into account all the political processes that have taken place. So if you ask a person who is for or against the government, this person is going to speak about politics because the politics were everywhere. There were coup d'etat attempts, there was a lockout at the beginning of Chavez administration. So Chavistas will tell you that they faced problems due to these coup d'etat attempts because they had difficulties to reach fuel. Imagine not having access to medicine or fuel. So clearly, all the situations had an impact on the citizens. And obviously, you as a citizens need to wonder yourself, what is your role and your position in this political context? And what do you do in a high context of uncertainty? So that's why we believe in a process of building alternatives for young people. And that's why it's so important to take into account all the social elements, the study, work, access to housing. So all of these are key elements. And I believe we are trying to build solutions to the problems we face. Because of course we have still problems to be solved, but we believe that the cooperative model, the communal model is the right path. The construction of community-oriented companies, social-oriented companies that can allow us to have better standards of living. Somehow, I believe the communal unity has been vital, because the communes cannot be should not be isolated efforts, such as, for example, the El Maizal commune. No, this has to be a national coordination that has an influence on public policies and not just an isolated effort. I used to work for the Ministry of Communes. I was the president of a foundation for the strengthening of people's power. And more recently, I left the ministry. I'm currently unemployed, but my willingness is to keep working for this political process. So I may ask, well, what are my work options? How can I continue involved in this process? You as a young person are always wondering and asking yourselves, what path should I take? So we believe that the unity of communes, by developing a social economy, by developing mechanism of social contention, we will be able to be successful and move forward in what we consider the most important legacy that we received, which was the Commander Chavez legacy. So I'm open to your question or comments, and thank you for this beautiful space to express myself. Thank you, Hernan, for having described so clearly this journey as a revolutionary young person and sharing with us your life experience. I think it's very valuable. I think it has been really interesting today that all the stories that we have heard today had been identified by a common ground. There are several comments from the participants. Rosa Zúñiga asked, she says that the contributions of the young people have been wonderful. All the decision makings, taking into account the context, the combination of study, of social organization. That was a comment more than a question. And then a few seconds ago, we had a question. What are the keys of political capacity building? What are the challenges that young people have at the time of receiving political training, and especially for Latin American people? So what are the keys to political education and the challenges for political education of Latin American youth? So Jose, you can answer, and Gabi, all the Gabis can also say. Jade, are there questions on your side?
I wonder, Jose would like to play the video. Yeah, because he has already prepared 2 videos.
Yes, please. We cannot see the video. We cannot see the video. It's not possible to watch the video. Yeah, we can only listen to the sound. Would you select it and then share it? Stop sharing, and share it again. No, we can only listen, but we cannot watch. Would you please stop sharing the screen? Okay, now it's visible. Now it's visible. So that the dialectic way of thinking, one thing that is important here is the theory of organization, so that brothers and sisters can go to their grassroots and implement these processes in such difficult moments for the Bolivarian Revolution. And the grassroots work is very important, because without work, there's no revolution. For us, it's important to foster the culture of work, productivity, production. These are vital elements within the commune. And in our commune, El Maizal, it's important to produce with the construction and contribution of all the inhabitants. All these young people that are in our nation doing work from their heart. So we have different courses, mystics, young identity, and the role of the young revolutionaries. These are elements that we take into account, aiming at strengthening the people's effort. Yes, but somebody asked, he was asking to play it from the beginning. You have 2 videos, correct? Yes. There's a second video, Jade. Try to open the video first and then you share it. We are in the Maizal Commune, in this garden. We are sowing corn with the brothers and sisters. Yeah, what you have to do is open first the video, then share the screen and select the video. Well, I'm Ana Feneites. We are here in La Comuna El Maizal, in a piece of land that we are working in, and we are sowing corn with our brothers and sisters from the front, left front, and here we are. My name is José Antiquera. I belong to the El Maizal Commune, and this afternoon we are sowing corn. They're giving instructions on how to do it. My name is Daniel Suarez. I'm the training coordinator from the Socialist Commune El Maizal, and here, this is the 5th training day, teaching people the militant work, how to sow yellow corn, and we have participants who are doing the work, learning the technique, an ancient technique that is used to sow corn. So this technique, we learned it from our predecessors, and precisely, this is a hectare of corn that we are sowing. In 3 months, we'll have the harvest, and we already have dry corn to produce arepas. So let's answer other questions that we have. There's another question here before you answer. Do the youth who become politicized in universities consider entering working class jobs as contributors to working class political struggle? That's the question, no? But before the answers, do you have any other questions you want to share, Jade?
Oh, yes, we have 2 questions. What would be roughly the proportion of students in your university that are right-wing, left-wing, and middle? And a rough proportion among all university students. Question 2, is there any significant number of university students that want to do farming or are interested in working in rural areas? We have a last question for all the speakers. Are young people interested in ecological and environmental issues? Thank you.
So Tato, you start. Were you able to understand the last 2 questions? Yes. Can you repeat them, please? The first is a great question. What's the proportion in the university you studied among students of left, right, and center students? What are the statistics in the Central University of Venezuela? And the second, if there are students who are interested in going to the rural areas to work and in farming. And the third question that is general for all the participants, for all the presenters, and is if there are young people interested in studying environmental issues or ecological issues. So you have the floor, Jose, to answer the questions, and then we give the floor to Gabriela and the other girls to give also their final remarks. Well, the keys for political training in Latin America, we believe that Marxism is an important element for the understanding of the people's struggle, of the class struggle, of the struggle for the means of production. We believe this is vital. We believe that it's also important to take into account the Latin American history, the whole process of robbery as a consequence of the European colonization and all the resources that were taken away from our continent. And then the American domination, and these are key elements to understand the political transformation in Latin America. With regards to the students and the class struggle, I think that in the Central University of Venezuela, there have been strong traditions linked to Marxism. The schools of social work and the School of History have always been linked to the left. Normally, are the university programs that are linked to the social struggle for the benefit of workers. Of course, there are mechanisms of the students, especially in the field of social sciences, to get on the side of the social struggle. Now, with regards to the students and agroecology and agriculture, there's a minority, because unfortunately still many youngsters are interested in neoliberal careers, but however there's a minority that is interested in agriculture And I have colleagues who studied agrosciences are helping us in the transformation. There are currently polytechnical universities and university hamlets that render easier this promotion of university programs related to agriculture. And with Simon Rodriguez University, we are currently working in creating a center for the study of veterinary sciences and agriculture. So there are processes that we are currently working to orient towards those fields. Now, with regards to the proportion of left and right in our university, left, paradoxically, is a minority in the Central University in Venezuela. Unfortunately, we could say that, well, most of people in my university is in the center, and then there's a small percentage, 20% of students are identified with the right wing and fascist groups, and another percentage identified with the left. So this is a curious process that we have seen in the Central University of Venezuela. However, in other public university, the proportion is different. I would say that most of the people in other universities are in a process of depoliticization and somehow are in a center position. So, but there are other students who are more focused on pursuing their own benefit. Because in the end, companies, private companies, a lot of private companies hire the university students. So somehow this is a general description of the scenario in the universities and the student sectors. And that's why we're working in a coordination process with students to promote agricultural technology and orientations towards communities and the contact with the communes to increase the productivity levels in terms of agriculture. We are currently working in the central capital region to be able to increase the levels of sustainability with the help of specialists in agricultural science. I hope I answered in general terms your questions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and for the answers to the questions. Now we are about to close this session. I want to thank the participants. And I think we can have now the final contribution of Gabriela Henríquez, for example, from the Audrobeta movement. The floor is yours. And also taking into account a general question, if there is an interest in the current young people in the ecological studies. Gabi, are you connected? I think Gabriela is not connected. So
well, Gabriela, ladies. Thank you for the invitation. I urge you to visit our social networks, our Facebook and Instagram accounts. We are very pleased. Thank you for this invitation and this opportunity. And that you are interested in knowing our experiences, in addition to the bilateral relations that may exist between both political governments. So this window is to communicate and to share, and will be very pleased for us to visit you there, or the country that you may visit is, to know the experiences, to know what the culture chain is doing nowadays, and of course that you may have the experience to visit Venezuela, to know what the Venezuelan youth is doing mainly in this current situation. Once again, thank you. We convey our greetings. Thank you for this training program, and that you have taken into account our participation. You can count on a family that deeply admire. So we convey our greetings to you. Thank you. We are deeply committed with the sowing. We are planting and sowing medical plants. And in addition to the sowing and agricultural activities, we are getting involved with a recycling company. We are deeply committed to comply with the Homeland's plan to meet all the goals to save the planet. So we are deeply ecologists. We promote the environment and the nature, and we are deeply chavistas. So we need to have a place for living. Well, Tato, you have the floor. Well, it is important for the youth to get involved with agricultural activities. And because of the oil crisis and the oil activities, there is a interest to go back to our roots in the agricultural sector, mainly in our youth, to once again to go back to the rural areas. Many young people, if they have access to technological tools, training, they might be interested because there is an option to survive and to move forward. So I would like to give you all my contact information. I will write it right here on the chat, my Gmail account, so we may be able to share experiences, to share information, to know about the Chinese experience per se, because I know that you have alternatives and might be very interesting to know the public policies which are executed in China to share, to expand, to share knowledge in the same way as we did with the landless movement in Brazil. So it will be very interesting for us once again to know your experiences that look for an acceptable way of living, for having places mainly in the framework of sustainability approach. So we're working in this field, and well, thank you. We convey our greetings. Thank you for this opportunity, and we are eager to listen to you on a following occasion. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tato. Thank you to all the speakers, Gabriela, Blanco, Henríquez, Jesus from the Lidice Commune, to Gabriela Peña, to the Islam youth, and thank you to Gabriela Henríquez from the Audrobeta Movement. Thank you all. We thank you for participating in this session. So Yade, I don't know if you want to add words for closing this activity.
Yeah, we thank you very much for all the young people, and we hope in the future we will have an exchange program for the youth in Venezuela and in China, because we have a lot of young people involved in rural reconstruction movement and work for the peasant and also workers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is, as I said, this is a common cause to foster bilateral bonds, to exchange knowledge, and there are important elements that we, as organizers, that we are promoting from the university that is working with the youth to bind the youth to the rural activities, but also to foster and to thank the Simon Bolivar Institute and other movements in Venezuela in order to create bonds in this field. So we want to guarantee ways for coexisting. So I think this has been a fruitful situation, and in my case, it has been very useful to know all those experiences from the speakers. Thank you. We're eager to see you on the following occasion that will be centered on the processes of the cultural construction and the decolonization, mainly with the artists from Venezuela. We are going to have a similar activity with other speakers that are constructing from the people's culture. Thank you, and you are invited for the following occasion. And as we said,